Hi everyone, I'm Haley and today I'm going to be talking about the book I chose to do my book report on. So I chose to do it on a Goosebumps book. Personally, growing up, these were some of my favorite books, but I picked one of them that I hadn't read before. So this is Goosebumps Most Wanted. It is Planet of the Lawn Gnomes. It is by R.L. Stine. This book is about Jay Gardner, who can't seem to stay out of trouble. Even after a fresh start in his new neighborhood, he kept finding himself in bad situations. But it's not his fault. Jay wants to be a good kid. He really does. It's just these strange things keep happening to him. What kind of place did his family move to? And why does every house have so many lawn gnomes in their yard? Jay better learn quickly that they are a lot of things more scary than his parents. This book is set in a small town. Jay's family, they move because Jay has caused a lot of trouble in his old town, so they're hoping to have a fresh new start in this new town, but Jay seems to continually find himself in more difficult situations than he would like to think. He tries to get on his parents' good side, but ends up causing more trouble, digging himself into a deeper hole. So for my example, I made a small little booklet, and all the pages have anything from the summary to the setting to the characters to ways you could use it in class. But first I'm going to go over some of the characters so we can get a bit of an overview of who they are. Our main characters in this book consist of Jay, Elliot, and Mr. McClatchy. Jay is the main character. He's a 12-year-old boy who seems to continually get himself into trouble. He's a prankster. He is really into science. He really likes mixing chemicals together and seeing what reactions he can come up with. And then in his new town, he meets his new best friend. His name is Elliot. He's a tall, broad, thicker boy. He has dark hair, dark eyes. In comparison to Elliot, they're complete opposites, where Jay is little. He's got red hair and blue eyes. He's kind of scrawny for a 12-year-old. And finally, Mr. McClatchy, he's pretty much the cause, the reason Jay finds himself getting into more trouble. I would say he's definitely a protagonist in this story. Without Mr. McClatchy, you wouldn't see Jay kind of lash out and seek more ways to get himself into trouble. He tries to pretty much get revenge on Mr. McClatchy, which he is like an old, frail old man. He's very crotchety, not very happy to be there. But yeah, he's lanky and kind of hunchback, the typical old man, And then some of the minor characters would be the parents of Jay. They're very on top of Jay. They want him to be a better kid. They notice that he has gotten into a lot of trouble, and to do what's best for him, they try to move him to a new town where they can just start over and start fresh. And then Jay has a sister. Her name is Kayla. She's kind of the typical sister where she kind of just picks on Jay, doesn't always believe what he has to say for himself, and kind of just intrudes a little bit on his life. Okay. So those are predominantly the characters in this book. There are some minor ones. Jay does have a dog. His name is Mr. Phineas. He is also kind of one of the reasons that Jay seems to get himself into more trouble. In the story, to get on his parents' good side, he thinks that maybe going out and walking his dog before his parents get to it would, make them happy. But his dog ends up running away and leading to more trouble, goes to Mr. McClatchy's yard and causes a scuffle pretty much, and causing a bigger predicament, leads to Jay wanting to get revenge and payback on Mr. McClatchy. So in my little booklet, I also have some different subjects where you could apply this book to. There's obviously more, but I'm just going to keep it pretty simple and to the point. In this book, one of the big factors that you have recurring throughout the story is the quagmire, which is pretty much a quicksand pit. So I thought, as like a science experiment, or at least in science class, you could learn about what quicksand is, how it works, how you sink, what makes you sink faster, or even find videos to demonstrate like what quicksand looks like, or what happens when someone is in it, how to escape, so on and so forth. And then, since this is a Goosebumps book, it is kind of supposed to be frightening, terror-filled. For some writing, I thought it'd be a fun little thing to have them write about a time that they were scared of something that happened, or something they were unsure about. In this case, Jay, he didn't know exactly why there was a rule where you weren't supposed to go out past bedtime until the end of the book, realizing that the reason you don't go outside is because the gnomes come out at night, and they pretty much cause terror, and they live their world at night, whereas the humans live during the day. They just kind of flip back and forth. And they could also write about a rule that they've had ever since they were little, that they've grown up with. And for like a social studies thing, since Jay moved, you could ask your class, like, have you ever moved? Have you had to switch schools before? And for like a map example or something to incorporate into a lesson, you could have your students find your town that you're either from, where you've moved to, or where you live currently, and see how far it is away from your school. And I also have some examples in my little booklet. There we go. I also have some examples in my little booklet about some things you could use this book to teach about. And I have it kind of listed in a lengthier list. So with this book, since Jay keeps finding himself getting into more and more trouble, I think this would be a good book to teach kids how to follow rules and teach them about what happens when you don't versus what happens when you do follow the rules, as well as how to behave. Jay kind of finds out in this book that he really has to behave in order to show his parents that he is a good kid and he's learning from the mistakes that he's made in his past. And in this book, students should be able to understand plot and setting, as well as identify characters with their traits, or if they were described, they should be able to pick out who they are. For example, if they were talking about like a red-headed 12-year-old boy, they would know that that's Jay. R.L. Stine's really good about being descriptive and using a lot of adjectives when he writes, so you're getting a bigger image when you're reading it, so you can visualize the scene. Everything's very clear. This also works with some social development, such as like how to handle problems without causing problems. It's pretty much confronting issues without making it more dramatic than it has to be. And also cognitive development, because it's visualizing what's happening, you're able to put words with pictures in your head, being able to see what's happening, see what he's saying. And also literacy skills, because they're reading and comprehending what's happening, as well as seeing what is being foreshadowed in the book. And they can also compare and contrast characters. They'll be able to tell just by like who the characters are, that obviously not every character is built the same. They're put in the story to have an equal effect on each other. So they'll be able to do that. So pretty much my little booklet that I made has just like an overview of the book, and it'll help kind of give a greater understanding of what's going on in the book, since it has like the plot, setting, a summary, and some of the characters and some examples you could use in your classroom for that. Let's see. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a really good book. In the story, I thought it was really cool because, like, personally, I'm not like a troublemaker type kid, so I never really experienced anything that Jay has experienced. But pretty much in this story, what I thought was really cool, when you get towards the end of this book, you start to realize that there's some repetition in some of the words that R.L. Stine uses to write in this book. You'll hear the word malfunction repeated in this book, and it's pretty much every time there's a confrontation with an issue, or even the gnomes, you will hear the word malfunction repeated, and you kind of start to wonder, like, what is the significance behind this word? And in all reality, once you hear it the first time, it kind of foreshadows what's going to happen at the end. So if you read it, you'll find out what happens. This book also, towards the end, talks about possibly being a simulation. Because in the title it says Planet of the Gnomes, and as you're reading it, you're thinking they're on Earth, the gnomes just come to life at night. But in all reality, is it possible that it's the planet of the gnomes that we're just living on? So that's a little bit of a hook or a cliffhanger that might make you want to read this. But I really did enjoy this book. I read this over the course of like 3 hours in a couple of days. Super easy read. It'd be a fun project for those who like some mysteries or a little bit of a scarier type read. But yeah, I do recommend this book, and I hope you guys choose to read it, and I hope you guys liked my cute little example. Thank you guys.